The story begins with Keanu Reeves, lost in the quiet reflection of his past. He walked through the streets of Los Angeles, the noise of the world fading into the background as memories rushed in. His life had not always been the fame and fortune that the world knew him for. There had been a time when he was just a young man, filled with dreams and passion, chasing after the things that truly mattered to him. One of the happiest and most meaningful chapters of his life had been the years he spent with Lily. She had been his heart's compass, his partner, his confidant. Those were the days when love had seemed endless and simple, and the future was a beautiful mystery they would explore together. But life, as it often does, brought challenges. The weight of misunderstandings, unspoken words, and personal struggles slowly pulled them apart. Their love had dissolved quietly, and Lily had vanished from his life as silently as she had entered it. Years passed. Keanu had achieved everything he had once dreamed of. Hollywood had become his domain, and he had reached the pinnacle of success. Yet as he stood at the height of his career, something was missing. There was a deep, undeniable emptiness within him, a void that only Lily's presence had once filled. He had tried to fill that gap with everything the world had to offer, but nothing could replace her. She had left the deepest mark on his heart, one that no amount of fame or wealth could ever erase. One ordinary day, while strolling down a busy shopping street, Keanu's eyes caught a fleeting glimpse of someone. For a moment, he thought he had imagined it, but no. His heart skipped a beat as he realized that the figure walking in the crowd was Lily. He froze for a second, disbelief washing over him. Time had been kind to her, but it was clear that life had shaped her in ways that were both familiar and new. The woman before him seemed distant from the vibrant, carefree soul he once knew. She now carried an air of quiet peace, a stark contrast to the chaos they had once lived in. Her presence felt like an echo of the past, and yet so much had changed. Keanu's mind raced, and for a moment he debated whether to approach her. Could it be? Was it really her? His breath caught in his throat, and before he could think, his feet began to move, closing the distance between them. He hadn't expected this moment, hadn't prepared himself for the rush of emotions that came with seeing her after so many years. As he stood behind her, he hesitated, his voice catching in his chest. "Lily," he whispered softly, almost as if he were afraid to disturb the fragile reality of this moment. She turned, and their eyes locked. It was as if time had stood still for both of them. A look of recognition flashed across her face, followed by a faint, cautious smile. For the first time in years, Keanu felt a pang of something both familiar and foreign. Lily was here, standing before him, but she was a stranger in the way only time and distance can transform someone. The connection was still there, but it felt different now, mature, fragile, yet undeniable. And as they stood there, the years between them seemed to vanish, leaving them both suspended in the quiet truth that some loves, some moments, never truly fade. They simply become shadows that follow you, reminders of who you once were and who you could have been. Keanu inhaled deeply as he approached Lily. His heart raced as he took in the sight of her. She looked just as beautiful as he remembered, her features untouched by time. Yet as she turned and her gaze met his, it was as if they were strangers. The years between them seemed to stretch endlessly, and in that instant both were faced with the reality of time's unrelenting passage. Their eyes locked, and the world around them seemed to blur. It wasn't just a glance, it was a connection, one that had never truly faded despite the distance and the years. For a fleeting moment, they were transported back to the days when they had been inseparable, when everything had felt certain. The rush of old feelings flooded both of them, love, regret, and the weight of what had been lost. Keanu and Lily had lived through different lives, with different stories, and yet their bond remained. It was a quiet, unspoken truth that tied them together. Time had changed them both, but that connection, those shared memories, had never been fully erased. Keanu, now a successful and famous actor, stood before her as a different man. Fame had brought him everything he thought he wanted, but it hadn't filled the emptiness inside him. He had been adrift, searching for something more, and seeing Lily again stirred something deep within him, a longing, a desire for reconciliation, for closure. Lily, on the other hand, had her own life, her own battles. She had learned to embrace a quieter existence, one far removed from the world they had once shared. But standing there, face to face with Keanu, she felt a wave of emotions she hadn't anticipated. There was pain, yes, but there was also a longing for understanding. Neither of them knew what to say at first. Words failed them, as they stood frozen in the midst of their shared history. But Keanu, summoning the courage he hadn't realized he still possessed, finally spoke. "I know you recognize me," he said, his voice tinged with hesitation. "But I want to talk to you. I need to—" Lily's lips curved into a faint, sad smile, one that hid the complexity of her emotions. She looked at him for a long moment before responding, her voice soft but firm. "I think you don't deserve this," she said, her words carrying the weight of everything that had happened between them. It wasn't anger, but something deeper, something that had been buried beneath the years of silence. Keanu felt the sting of her words, but they didn't push him away. They simply told him how much time had passed, how much pain had been carried by both of them. And yet, there was still a flicker of something worth exploring, worth understanding. The silence between them deepened, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a quiet pause, a moment where both of them understood that the past couldn't be erased, but perhaps it could be understood. In the stillness, both of them knew one thing: they were ready to face the past, to touch the remnants of what had once been, and maybe, just maybe, build something new from the ashes of their former selves. Keanu and Lily sat across from each other in a cozy cafe, the soft hum of conversation around them barely reaching their ears. For the first time in years, they were together again, and yet the space between them felt vast. Time had shaped them both, but the connection they once shared was undeniable. As they began to speak, the years of silence melted away, replaced by the shared history they couldn't ignore. Lily looked at Keanu, her eyes searching for the person she had once known. She had spent so many years moving on, creating a life that was entirely hers. But now, seeing him again, she wondered how much of the past was still alive in him. She asked gently, "How has your life been? I've read about you, seen you on screens. But what about you, Keanu? The real you, behind the fame?" Keanu paused, not sure where to begin. His life had become a whirlwind of press conferences, movie sets, and the kind of adoration that often felt hollow. He was a star, but a star who had lost his way. Fame had filled his pockets, but it hadn't filled the emptiness inside. And now, sitting here with Lily, he wondered if he could ever feel whole again. "I've lived a life I didn't expect," Keanu admitted. "I thought fame would fill the void, but it didn't. I've spent too much time running from what matters, trying to prove myself. And all the while I've felt like something was missing." His voice softened as he looked at her, as if searching for something in her eyes. Lily's gaze shifted downward. She had built a quiet life for herself, one that was free from the chaos of the world that once surrounded her and Keanu. Yet there was always something inside her that longed for the connection they once had. She had her share of challenges, personal struggles, and the burden of their breakup that she had never truly healed from. "You've built something solid for yourself, haven't you?" Keanu continued, sensing her hesitation. What's your life like now, after everything? Lily's eyes flickered with a mixture of sadness and strength. I've learned to live on my own, she said quietly. I found peace in solitude. I stopped chasing the world's approval and started focusing on what made me happy. But she paused, her voice faltering slightly. But I never stopped wondering about you, about us, why we ended the way we did. Keanu felt a pang in his chest. He had always carried the weight of their breakup, the unresolved pain, and the things left unsaid. There were so many reasons, so many misunderstandings that led to their separation. And though they both moved on in different ways, the past had never really left them. Do you ever think about what we had? Keanu asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily nodded slowly. Every day. But the past is a place we can't go back to. The question is, can we forgive each other? Can we let go of what hurt us and maybe try again? Her words hung in the air, and Keanu felt his heart race. The idea of starting over, of healing the wounds that had never fully closed, was both terrifying and exhilarating. He knew it wouldn't be easy. The scars of their past were still fresh, and they both had their own emotional baggage to deal with. But maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to move forward. Keanu took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers. I don't know if we can ever go back to what we were, Lily, but maybe we can start with today, with now. Lily smiled softly, her eyes glistening with emotion. I'm willing to try, she said, as they sat together, sharing stories of the years that had passed. The pain of the past seemed to fade into the background. Their connection was undeniable, and the possibility of a second chance, however uncertain, seemed within reach. For the first time in a long while, Keanu felt a sense of hope, and maybe that was enough to begin healing the scars of the past. Keanu and Lily had finally found each other again after years apart. But as they reconnected, they each had to face their own inner battles. Keanu, despite becoming a worldwide celebrity, had never truly been able to fill the emotional void left by his past relationships. The fame, the attention, the adoration, it all felt hollow without the deep, authentic connections he once had. Lily, on the other hand, had spent her life in solitude, battling the quiet loneliness that came with living without someone to share her soul. But after reuniting with Keanu, she felt a spark of something that she had longed for, the possibility of something new. One evening, as they sat together on a park bench under the soft glow of streetlights, Keanu turned to Lily, his voice carrying a mixture of nostalgia and raw emotion. Those moments we spent together, Lily, they were the happiest of my life, he said, his voice soft but sincere. The past, the memories they had shared, seemed to flood back all at once. Lily's eyes glistened, and she looked away for a moment, taking in a shaky breath. I haven't forgotten them, Keanu, she whispered, but we're not the same. The people we were back then. We've changed. We're different now. Keanu nodded, the weight of her words sinking in. He knew that their past was complicated, full of both beautiful memories and painful endings. But despite the passage of time and the miles that had come between them, he couldn't help but feel that there was still something between them, something worth fighting for. I know we're different, Keanu said quietly, his gaze intense, as he looked at her. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we're meant to be different now, but that doesn't mean we can't start something new, something fresh. His words hung in the air, filled with hope and uncertainty, yet there was a quiet confidence in them. Lily felt a flutter in her chest at his words. The idea of a new beginning, of trying again, both scared and excited her. She had spent so much time guarding her heart, afraid of falling into old patterns, but with Keanu, it felt different. He wasn't the same person who had left all those years ago, and neither was she. You're right, Lily said slowly, meeting his gaze. We've both changed, But that doesn't mean we can't find a new way forward. We've both been through so much. Maybe we can find a way to heal together." Keanu reached out and gently took her hand in his, the touch warm and reassuring. "Maybe this is the second chance we were meant to have," he said, his voice steady, though his heart raced. Lily smiled faintly, a mixture of hope and hesitation in her expression. "Maybe it is," she said softly. As they sat there, their hands intertwined, the world around them seemed to fade away. The past was never truly gone, and neither were the scars it had left. But for the first time in years, they both felt the possibility of healing, of starting again. The shadows of their past would always be a part of them, but together they could find a way to walk into the future, hand in hand. Keanu and Lily had decided to re-enter each other's lives, taking the bold step of facing their pasts and embracing the possibility of a future together. With time, their bond began to strengthen. They started understanding each other more deeply, accepting one another with all their flaws and complexities. It was as if the years of separation had given them the perspective they needed to truly appreciate what they had lost and what they had the chance to rediscover. Keanu, who had been weighed down by the pain and losses of the past, found solace and peace in Lily's presence. Her quiet strength, her kindness, and her understanding were a balm for his weary soul. He realized that despite all the fame and success that Hollywood had given him, it was Lily who held the key to his true happiness. The emptiness that had lingered for so long in his heart began to fade, slowly but surely, as he allowed himself to feel loved again. Lily, on the other hand, had spent years guarding her heart, fearing that her past mistakes might define her forever. But as she looked at Keanu, she saw the same love and tenderness in his eyes that had once been there. She began to let go of her fears, shedding the walls she had built around herself. She understood now that love wasn't about perfection. It was about trust, growth, and healing. And with Keanu, she found the courage to open her heart again. Though their paths had been different, the love they shared had never truly faded. It had been lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to bloom once more. Keanu, despite all his fame, had learned that true happiness couldn't be found in the lights of Hollywood. It was found in the quiet moments spent with someone who truly understood you, someone you could be your authentic self with. And for him, that someone was Lily. As they spent more time together, their connection deepened, and they began to build something new, a foundation built on trust, love, and mutual understanding. The pain of their past was no longer an obstacle. Instead, it had become a reminder of how far they had come and how much they had grown. Together, Keanu and Lily discovered that a new beginning wasn't about erasing the past. It was about learning from it and moving forward with the strength of the love they had rediscovered. Their relationship blossomed into something beautiful and enduring, stronger than ever before. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined them. Instead, they were a testament to the resilience of their love and the power of second chances. And so, Keanu and Lily's love story, once filled with heartache and loss, transformed into a new chapter, a chapter of healing, growth, and above all, a love that would endure for the rest of their lives. Together, they found a sense of peace and joy that neither had ever known before. And they knew that, no matter what the future held, they would face it side by side. Keanu and Lily, as they continued their journey through life together, found in each other not only love, but also an unwavering source of support. Their bond had grown into something far deeper than mere romantic affection. It was a partnership forged through the trials of life, strengthened by time and sealed by the wisdom of their shared experiences. Together, they had faced their pasts, acknowledged their pain, and emerged stronger, more resilient, and more connected than ever. Their love story wasn't just about rekindling an old flame. It was about two people finding their way back to each other, healing the wounds of their past, and embracing the present with open hearts. They had both been through so much, but it was their shared understanding, their ability to truly see one another, that allowed them to rebuild what had once been lost. They weren't simply lovers, they were companions, best friends, and soulmates. With every passing day, their connection deepened. There were no longer any barriers between them, no walls, no doubts, no fears. They had learned to trust in each other fully, knowing that together they could face whatever life threw their way. They had become a team, and the strength of their partnership was something neither of them had ever experienced before. As they sat together holding hands, sharing quiet moments of contentment, they knew that their love was something rare and precious. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And in that authenticity, they had found a kind of peace that neither had thought possible. The future, once uncertain and full of questions, now felt full of promise and hope. The story comes to a close with Keanu and Lily standing together, looking toward the horizon. With their hearts entwined, they were ready to embark on a new journey, one that would take them wherever life would lead, as long as they were side by side. They knew that the road ahead might still have its challenges, but they were no longer afraid. With each other, they had everything they needed to face the world. As they embraced, the love that had once been lost was now eternal. The bond they shared would endure through time, a testament to the power of second chances, the resilience of love, and the beauty of two souls finding their way back to one another. And so their story continues, not as a chapter of the past, but as a lifelong journey that would carry them through all the joys, the struggles, and the triumphs of life together.